This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
I don't think we execute at home the way we execute on the road. And the other thing is I feel like we're behind at home. And when you fall behind, you're putting the game in peril. Teams play D, so it doesn't help when you have to chase the game a little bit. I think, I don't know, just our execution here just hasn't been the way we execute on the road.
No, it hasn't, Coop. I'm going to remove him. And there I am. Are we there?
You are driving the ship.
I don't know if I'm driving it. I mean, it's not as elegant. Hold on. I'm listening to the app. Are we on? Oh, yeah, we're on, partner. We're on.
I was going to ask you to put on some duct tape on the
well, we got the wide
screen.
See, look at this. This is good.
We're a party of two today.
Yeah. We're
Steve
here.
has just lots of balls in the air, I guess.
Yeah.
He's juggling.
No, he's got stuff going on.
That was well done, my friend.
Well,
you got
look,
us on the air. The
we're
fans
here.
are like, we need power lunch. Hungry for power lunch.
Hungry.
Our fan is like, what is happening? It's 12 o'clock. I don't see Greg and Dave. Thank you, Greg.
As long as people can hear us, we all good. It is Power Lunch on Lightning Radio. Lots to discuss today on the show as we get into the weekend. Of course, I think a lot of people are going to talk about the disappointing game last night to the Kings, and we certainly are going to dive into it. I'm curious what our audience thinks at Bolts Radio. On a big picture level, it was very interesting on the last call. By the way, shout out to Lucas, my neighbor, and Alex, who stopped by the last call and said they listen to Power Lunch.
Yeah.
Of course, Lucas does.
You were mugging for attention. You're like, by the way, stop by Power Lunch. Stop by the last call. You said that on the show yesterday.
Did I say that?
We had the fan who said, I'm not able to listen live. I'm going to listen later, but I'm coming to the game tonight.
That's right.
That was the fan whose kid was coming home from college, and you were like, well, you should stop
on by.
The last call, yes.
Yeah. I will just make one point. So it was very nice to meet them, and we do appreciate all of you guys that listen. It is very cool. I will say this. Just one note. When there is a broadcast going on, and I've been doing this for a long time, so have you, but particularly when you're in an establishment, a bar, or wherever, people have a tendency to come up and want to talk to you while you're on the air. And it's not that we are being dismissive or rude. It's just we're on the air. We have to be able to do the show. And when people were sometimes talking, hey, you're asking questions, give it a couple of seconds. Or if I point to the head, say, hey, we're on the air, that just means we can't talk. That sometimes does happen.
Or even better, ask the question on the air.
That's true.
You guys don't really take questions, though, on the last call.
No, every once in a while we do, but it's more of the roundtable. Anyways, the game last night was interesting because we have talked about, there are moments in a game that you can go back and circle. And I think it was during the first intermission report. I maybe jinxed it. And I said, man, I don't want to look back and say the Dominic James shot at the end of the first period was going to be a turning point in this game. And, partner, it kind of felt like it was looking back. Hindsight's always 20/20, but the Lightning have a 1-0 lead. We know the Kings struggle to score goals. We know they're a different team when they're playing with a lead. And you felt like not only getting the lead, but maybe a multi-goal lead would have been a big, big deal in a game like that last night. And the thing about the James opportunity, I don't know if I can even really blame him for the shot, because in those instances, as you and I always discuss, along with all the other team members, it's like, get the puck up. He didn't lift the puck up. If that puck's up, it's a goal. He kind of did get it up. And there was a huge save made by Forsberg, and good for him because he was outstanding when called upon. But, looking back on that, was that one of the big or biggest moments of the game last night?
I wrote in my extra shift there were 3 big moments in the game, and that was one of them.
Love it.
Yeah. So we were thinking.
So what you're saying is we're on the same page. Yes.
Yeah. Because it's not only that the Kings have struggled offensively this year, which they have.
Yep.
It's also that they were playing the second half of a back-to-back, and they were running on E. I think that was the case. It was one reason why the Lightning score effects had something to do with it. But I mean, the Kings leaned into defending, but they didn't. After the first few minutes, they really didn't do much to create. They kind of were able to create off of some errors the Lightning made, isolated. Now, they had some great ones in addition to the 2 goals that they scored. But I think in hindsight, had the Lightning gotten that second goal, that might have been it. And I'm not usually one to say that, but based on how the Kings were playing, a 2-goal lead for the Lightning might have been enough. And also, so this is the thing that Coop talked about. I guess I'm talking about a lot of different stuff here at the beginning, which I'd like to get more focused, but I'm just throwing a lot of stuff out here because I'll get to the other 2 big plays. But what Coop said about, we haven't had the lead at home, or we've been trailing at home. Like in their 4-game losing streak at home, the only time they've had any kind of a lead was last night when Bjorkstrand scored. And you could see it built their game up. They played well up 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
They carried play. They could have made it 2-0.
Yeah.
They were buzzing. I'm not sure they got chances like the James chance, but before Kempe tied the game at 1, they were dictating play. It helped them. So it's not like they've been trailing through all 4 games most of the time, but they've only had 1 lead in the 4 games, and that was last night. So in the other games, they were either trailing or tied. The Islander game at home, they were tied for 50 minutes, right? Even last night, Kempe scored. It was 1-1 through the bulk of the second period. But it's been hard for them because I do think that, especially late in games, they are chasing games. And they scored 1/6 attacker goal that got taken off the board. I don't mean to revisit that, but, that's been the only one that they've scored to get a game tied when they've been down. Usually they've been down by 1. That was, again, the case last night. So I think a 2-0 lead would have been huge for the Lightning. Their confidence, based on where the opponent was, based on the opponent's strengths and relative weaknesses, based on the fact that the opponent had played the night before, didn't happen. Forsberg made the save. I think he put himself in a position to make the save, but let's be honest, he got lucky. It hit the top of his glove. I mean, he got the glove there, and so he deserves credit.
Sure.
But if that thing, forget about putting it up. He put it up. James put it up, and he shot it quickly. If that thing is half an inch higher, it's off his glove and in the net. Instead, it hit the top of the glove and bounced straight up, deflected straight up and stayed out. That was one big moment. Big moments 2 and 3 are the 2 LA goals. Because the second big moment, Kempe scores to tie the game at 1. I believe that was the Kings' first shot on net in 14 minutes. They had nothing going. Nothing. But he is their most talented offensive player, and he makes a great shot. He does. It's a great shot. He's got a hard wrist shot. He used Destu as a screen. He shot it between Destu's legs, so it was probably a little difficult for Vasilevsky to pick it up. And let's not forget, Vasi had missed 7 games, had been unable to see game action for 7 games. I thought he played well last night, but we can't ignore that fact. And how many goals today, in this day and age, are being scored in what Franjon called the 6 hole and the 7 hole? Goalies go down. Vasi wasn't flat on the ice in the butterfly, but he was going down. And we see so many pucks going in right now that are above the pad, below the glove on one side, below the stick and the blocker on the other. And that's exactly where Kempe put that puck. So, it's a shot from distance, but it's a great shot, and it's a hard save. That's my opinion. I don't know if Chief had anything to say about it. He's usually, able to kind of pinpoint Vasi maybe should have had that one. I didn't actually think that was on Vasi. I think that's just tip your cap. The guy is a great player, and he made a great shot, and he used the defenseman as a screen. He got it through the defenseman, and he put it in an area where players are scoring goals now. Okay, so it's 1-1. Changed the complexion of the game. We hit the middle part of the period, and I said to Phil, I think I maybe even said it on the air, like you get the feeling the next goal may be the one that wins the game for that team. And unfortunately, I was right because the Kings got it. And that one, the Lightning gift wrapped. Christmas came early for LA. Okay, and it was the Lightning's most reliable line, most consistent line this year. They were -2. I don't really think they had much to do with the first goal against, but Holmberg definitely had a lot to do with the second goal against, where that line has played. They play smart, solid hockey. They cycle pucks. They're going down low. They're not dropping to the point. They're not making little like touch passes usually. They're putting it in areas that are safe, sound, secure, and they go and get it. And they are in sync. That's what has made that line so effective. And in this one instance, Holmberg is peeling back toward the blue line. He thinks Destu is doing one thing. Destu is thinking Holmberg is doing something else. And Destu moves away from the area where Holmberg is trying to tap the puck to him, and it turns into a turnover and a breakaway for Kempe, who makes a great move. Again, I wonder if Vasilevsky might have reacted to that a little differently if he hadn't missed 7 games, but we'll never know. Tip your cap to Kempe. He made 2 plays. And for the rest of the game, the Lightning were trailing against, this is the Kings' strength. We talked about this on the show yesterday. Tied for 3rd in the NHL coming in defense. Goals allowed per game. They lowered that number last night. And they have a veteran crew. You look at their 6D. These guys are all like seasoned NHL veteran pros with the exception of their standout younger D, Brant Clark. The other 5, go down the list. Doughty, Mikey Anderson, Dumoulin, Ceci, Edmondson. They know how to play smart hockey. You're going to give them a 1-goal lead where they're low on energy. They're like, we are making the safe play. How many pucks just got flipped high in the air out of the Kings' end? They made it hard on the Lightning to try and generate. They blocked a ton of shots. It's set up as ideally as possible for the Kings after Kempe made those 2 plays. They didn't have to chase anymore, and then they got the lead. And that was not the script the Lightning needed. The Lightning script needed to be they play with the lead, and preferably a multi-goal lead. It didn't happen. So what do we make of the Lightning's performance? This game, to me, felt a lot like some of the other games that they have lost during this, we'll call it brutal stretch in December. I think the Lightning now are 2-6-1 in December. Of those 7 losses, and maybe we should take out the one that they played against the Islanders where they got a point in the shootout. But of the other 6, the 6 regulation losses, I think we can say that in 5 of them, the Lightning have probably done enough to get a point, if not more than 1 point, and they haven't. So they have to own that. They haven't done enough well to earn a point. Like they've lost the game each time in regulation, but every single one of those losses has been by 1 goal or 1 goal and an empty netter. And we kind of saw the same thing last night. It's not like the Lightning played badly. I mean, John Cooper in that same press conference is like, I can't really get on the guys. Like, they outshot the Kings 32-20. Some of that was score effects. Kings sat back in the 3rd period once they got the lead.
Yeah.
But shot attempts finished 77-33. So, I mean, the Lightning did a lot of hard work. Like, the effort level was there. They wouldn't have been able to generate 77 shot attempts if they hadn't battled to win pucks. Coop's point, though, is, and Phil said the same thing on the air, Coop said they could have had 110 shot attempts. So when Coop says we are not executing, yeah, some of it was they didn't execute on that turnover. That was a huge mistake and a costly mistake. But what he's really talking about is executing in the offensive zone. And you're putting in the work to have the puck. That's hard work. They're doing that. They're getting the puck. They have the puck in the other team's end. Now, are you going to turn that into something juicy for you? And that is where the execution has been off, not just last night, but in some of these other games too. The Pittsburgh game was a little bit of an exception in that I think Jari in that particular game had more of an outsized role in denying chances. In these other games, it's been more that the Lightning have not, and I'll use Coop's word, execute to get to areas where they can create super dangerous chances. Now, the James chance was their best chance of the game. They had other chances, but I don't think any of those other chances even like came into the same vicinity of the James chance. You know, the Kings were contesting shots, blocking shots. Guys were, you know, one-timer. They didn't get all of it. You know, Point had a couple of shots in the bumper that like his stick was kind of disrupted. The puck fluttered to the goalie. So they needed to do more to get to hard areas, basically, and win pucks and force shot, save, rebound, save, retrieve, another shot. Like, that's what we didn't see a lot of, which we did in the Montreal game. Remember, we were talking about that. Like, why were the Lightning able to score all these goals? Well, they were very hard in front of the Montreal net. I'm not sure that we saw that as much last night. They had the one sequence early in the third, Holmberg and Gergensons. Holmberg got to the slot, backhand shot. It was on net. There was a juicy rebound. Gergensen skated right into it, slammed it back to the net. Forsberg gets over. He's like, where is it? It squeezes between his arm and his body, drops behind him, but he's able to reach back and glove it. Okay, so he made 2 saves in that sequence. We didn't see a lot of that last night. It was a shot, save, no rebound. Shot, deflected, out of play. Shot, missed the net. There wasn't a lot of like shots in succession that forced uncomfortable moments for Forsberg. So that part is on the Lightning. And we've kind of, like, that was what you were talking about with the 2 games, the first 2 games with the Islanders with Sorokin. You're like, I don't think Sorokin has been, like, stolen the game. And I agree with you. He was solid, and that's what we can say about Forsberg, except Forsberg made that one save on James, which was a huge, huge save. The other saves Forsberg made were good saves on some difficult attempts. But did the Lightning make him and the Kings really uncomfortable? And I'm not sure that they did. So it's a little bit of the Lightning are playing hard. They're doing a lot of good things. They are being a little bit unlucky because, I mean, the margin here is narrow. And even not getting those super dangerous grade A chances, sometimes pucks go in. They're not going in. You lose a game 2-1. And you have 32 shots, meaning 31 were on net and didn't go in. One of those other 31 could have gone in. It doesn't have to be a wide open net. They're not going in, right? You have 77 shot attempts. Okay, Maybe the shot is deflected, but maybe it deflects in the net. So they're not even getting any of those, and they're losing these games by a narrow margin. And the other team on far fewer shots, far fewer attempts, is getting the extra goal. That's what we're seeing right now. The Florida game is in a separate bucket to me because I thought the Panthers decisively outplayed the Lightning. It has not happened in these other 5 regulation losses. And I would even say in the shootout loss to the Islanders. The Lightning outplayed the Islanders in that game. But it was kind of the same deal, right? Like they have to work so hard to get goals in, but they are working hard, but they are not, and I'll use Coop's word again, executing. And that's really what it's, we often talk about executing about like puck management and moving the puck up the ice, but it's like making the final pass on the tape to create a great chance or executing in the way that you get to the front of the net and you're there for a rebound and you're gaining position on your opponent to put that puck in. I mean, Bjorkstrand's goal, Forsberg makes the first save, but Bjorkstrand stays with it and puts the second one through his pads. We didn't see a lot of that last night. And I don't mean to be critical of the Lightning. I think that this is on the margins. Like, you can win a game, sometimes win a game handily without doing that. The Kings didn't do that. They had their one guy shoot a puck in with a great shot and score on a breakaway. They had 2 other breakaways that Vasilevsky stopped that were basically fueled by Lightning mistakes. Did the Kings go to the front of the net? Perry did in the first period. Vasi made a great save on him. That was it. That was all they did. But they put 2 in, and they won the game because they were able to defend. And the Lightning weren't able to force them into uncomfortable situations, which they were able to do to Montreal and to New Jersey in the 2 games where they, lit the lamp repeatedly. So anyway, that's where I come down on last night's game. It was not a poor game for the Lightning. But when you lose, and you lose in regulation, now you've lost 4 straight at home in regulation. You were under 500 at home, 8-9.
Right.
That is extremely tough to swallow. And they had bad luck, too. Like, Kucherov gets sick. You think Kucherov would have made a difference on one of those power play chances? The 6-on-4 at the end of the game? He would have.
You know what the cynic will say? Well, partner, the power play hasn't been good all year, so maybe not. You know what I mean?
Well, look,
that's what they would say.
They improved their percentage last night. They went 1 for 5. That's 20%. If you are at 20%, you're doing okay. The problem was they needed a goal. How many power plays do they have after they fell behind? They had 3 power plays after they fell behind, and they didn't convert on any of them. Now, the last one was in the last 65 seconds, but they pulled the goalie for a 6-on-4.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. The power play didn't come through for them when they absolutely needed a goal to get that game tied. There were some positives last night. I thought it was maybe Gage Gonsalves' best game of the year. I thought James, he had a turnover on the Armia shorthanded breakaway, but James looked like, I'll just say it, a different player going to the regular Shield and not the full Shield. Those are positive. McDonough coming back. It's going to take him a little bit, but it's good news that he was back. And I thought Vasi played very well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it was all doom and gloom, but here we are. You know, like they've kind of squandered a lot of the good work that they did during the win streak. And, 15-3 over 18 is great. But now you're looking at, 2 wins in 9. That's the opposite.
I think that's the disappointing aspect. You worked so hard to get to that win streak, and you kind of gave it back a little bit to the point now where, the other point I wanted to make was just the Eastern Conference. Nobody's below 500.
Yeah.
And so you've just made it a little bit more difficult. It doesn't mean there's panic, but the things you mentioned are things I expect. I expect Vasilevsky to play well. I don't want kind of those, effort points after a game. You expect that. You should expect a certain level of play from certain players. The power play, I feel like, and this isn't anybody's fault, but I feel like we're really searching for some positives here when it's below expectations. I mean, there's no doubt. Bjorkstrand, it was good to see him, score a goal. That was great to see. Maybe that's the positive. And I agree with you on Gonsalves. It did feel like how did you describe it? Or maybe it was Eric, he played mad.
Yeah, I thought.
And that's fair.
They lit a fire under him having to sit for 4
And that's
games.
fair. But what are you going to do after this? That's part of the issue. I mean, what are you going to do after it?
You got to keep going and play the same way.
And man, is LA a weird team? Because I didn't realize until Brian mentioned it on the last call, and it makes sense because we were looking at their roster and nothing really popped. They're the oldest roster in the league. I mean, it does feel that way, right?
Just look at the 5 of the 6 defensemen I talked about.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Perry and Kopitar are going to slant that,
no
right?
doubt.
But they were both valuable to this team. Now, is Perry going to be back next year? Is this a one-off for Perry? And we know Kopitar is not going to be back. So at some point, they're going to have to hand the ball off to other players. And the guys that they have who are high draft picks are Byfield, Turcotte, and Clark.
Yeah.
Now, Byfield, I had said last year was his breakout year. I misspoke a little bit. He's had 2 years of 20-plus goals. Now, you might say for a second overall pick, that is not good enough. He is on pace to finish way below that this year. But of the two, Byfield and Turcotte, Byfield is head and shoulders ahead of Turcotte in terms of being an impact player. I think Turcotte has a total of 12 goals in his NHL career. He's a number 5 overall pick. He's their third-line center now. So at some point, the Kings are going to have to hand off greater responsibility to their younger players. Now, Kempe is a stud, and he's in the prime of his career, but one stud does not a team make, right? So,
and does it feel like he's a little under the radar in the league? I mean, if you ever hear superstars,
it's the LA. It's funny because LA is such a big market.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
if you're not playing the Lakers,
I
think the Lakers get a lot of attention, and now the Dodgers get a lot of attention. But I mean, I feel like the other teams in LA can be good, but because they play late at night, in the East they play late at night. Maybe they fly under the radar a little bit. I don't know. Look, they are a good team because they can defend. I said that on the show yesterday.
For sure.
And they will put themselves in a position to get points. And we saw it on exhibit last night. Now, that was probably not their most dynamic game. In fact, I'm sure.
But it was the second game of back-to-back.
They can play more dynamic hockey than what we saw
Sure.
last night, which is why this was an opportunity missed for the Lightning. And Coop kind of alluded to that. At one point, he said, shame on us. You know, we had a tired team coming in second half of a back-to-back. Goalies playing back-to-back games for the first time, starting back-to-back games for the first time all year. Like back-to-back on consecutive nights, right? And the Lightning couldn't get any points out of the game. That's a swing and a miss. That's a schedule win for the Lightning. Maybe not a schedule loss for the Kings because it's a short trip, but it's definitely an advantage for the Lightning. And it's not like you get 50 of these. You get some of them. And this was one the Lightning did not take advantage of, which is also frustrating.
You mentioned the Cooch not there, the late game scratch. Sorelli had to leave the game, as well, which you never.
We can get into that
see.
collision. I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, Hagel's not in the game. I mean, there are a lot of pieces. We get it. I would just say that I think the Lightning are used to this, but you take that much firepower out of a lineup, and you can see where things may fall off a little bit from an offensive perspective. Get into the Sorelli play. I know a lot of people were going to, scream and shout a little bit, but is that incidental contact to a degree? I mean, how did you view that?
Yeah, I thought so. So Sorelli got injured on the play, which is unfortunate. This is different. So I think even Ed Encina said Sorelli took an elbow to the head. I actually didn't see that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but the replays I saw, it just looked like a collision. So, was Sorelli hit when he didn't have the puck? Yes. So you could say, well, why is that not interference? I am guessing, and because this is how I saw it, so I'm thinking this is how the officials saw it. Fiala is entitled to skate in a straight line. It's not like Sorelli turned and Fiala took 2 strides and knocked him over. He doesn't know that Sorelli is going to turn at that exact moment.
Right.
I mean, in fact, the puck is going into the corner. I'm not sure if the defenseman played it or the goalie came out to play it. The puck is going into the corner, and it gets reversed to the other side, which is why I didn't see the collision, because I was following the puck. It came to the other side of the ice. Like, it's not a foregone conclusion if you were Fiala that Sorelli is going to peel away when he did. By the time Sorelli peels away, Fiala's there. Like, he turns and there's contact immediately. So, look, we try and call these things as fairly as we can. I mean, I was pretty outspoken about the Mikkola play, which I didn't like at all, and the Jones play, which, I phrased that in a way that was not flattering to Jones, but I understood that, it wasn't as bad as some of the other hits Hagel has taken from Panther players. This one, to me, is just what's Fiala supposed to do? It's unfortunate that Sorelli took the brunt of the contact. I think Sorelli is not expecting to see a guy right there. Whereas Fiala sees that Sorelli is there. He's just not expecting him to turn into him. But once he sees him turning, he can maybe brace himself a little bit. I thought it was incidental contact. And that's why, I think interference has to have usually has an element of intent to it. And this was incidental. So that's how I saw it. John Cooper may disagree. Lightning fans may disagree. Hopefully Sorelli's going to be okay. And it's unclear to me exactly where he got hurt, too.
I would agree.
So
he was slumped over. I know that, and that's something we don't.
No practice
we don't
today,
want to
by the way, for the Lightning. So
yeah. Thomas says injuries are taking their toll now. He also has this question about Julian and trade markets and guys that we may, meaning the Lightning, go after. And he mentions O'Reilly and Tuck and Coleman. You could say all of them for sure. I think every one of them has a certain level of expertise they bring to the team. I think the hard part to gauge this Lightning team, because we haven't really seen it, is when everybody is healthy, what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a big if, because 82-game season, people are going to get nicked up. Feels excessive right now for the Lightning, and hopefully guys come back soon and start to show that chemistry. And the other thing, too, is this could be a team after the Olympics that finally has everybody ready to go, and they look completely different. So Julian has to gauge that, too. He definitely has to look at and say, okay, realistically, what do we have coming back? Do I think with the guys coming back, it will improve a couple of the weak spots on our team? If not, then I need to go out there and be proactive and make a move now. And sometimes you make that move in January as opposed to right around the trade deadline. That can happen too. So, I don't know, Thomas. I'm pretty consistent with what Julian will do. I think he does something, of course, because he's done it every year. I don't think this year is the exception. In fact, I think you could look at this year and say, why not Tampa Bay? Question is, you got to get in first. And this is where the parity in the league and the injuries the Lightning are suffering have made it a little more interesting overall, because I'm not sure 30-plus games in, partner, we would have thought all of the Eastern Conference is 500 or better. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think the overarching question is, do the Lightning need to make a move? And if so, how? Or is it that the Lightning want to make a move? They don't need to make a move, but Julian sees an opportunity to just get a player that will help them. But if they don't get the player, he's like, I still like our team. Okay, because Julian will do that. Julian will be like, I like our team, but I have a chance to go get this player who may take us over the top. That was kind of the feeling with the Savard deal, I think, when they got Savard. Like, they could have gone into the playoffs that year without David Savard, and they were the defending champs, and they had a very, very good team. Savard elevated them even more. So the way I answer this question is, let's forget the first 6/7 games. To me, the fans have heard me say, Game 7 against Chicago, they played well enough to get points. They didn't. But to me, that was different than the first 6. But because they lost it, let's separate those first 7 games, in which many of them, they just were flat. They didn't play well. They were outplayed by the other team. Okay. Pretty much they've been dealing with injuries all year. So let's not try and segregate, like, this part of the season they had injuries, the other part they didn't, and to your point, some of these injured guys that we think are going to be coming back and the Lightning are going to have more of a full deck. So which is more impactful for you to assess the team? 15-3 over 18 games? And really over that stretch, no clunkers. They had a couple of lopsided losses, as we talked about, where things didn't go their way, but they played hard, right? The home game against the Rangers, the home game against Vancouver. The other loss in there was at Colorado, where they battled. They lost by a goal. They won the other 15. That's taking us to the end of November. Or do you look at 2-6-1 and say, this is kind of showing us the team more accurately? And if you're asking me my opinion, I put way more stock in 15-3 than 2-6-1. And the reason I do that is 2-6-1 has been filled with weird circumstances in games where if you played that game again, the Lightning might, in fact, get points out of it. We just talked about this. The Lightning could have gotten more than 1 point in 3 games against the Islanders.
Sure.
They didn't, which is why the record is where it is. But if you're the GM, you have to assess, like, where is our team? Why did we lose this game? Did we not do enough to get to dirty areas to force the other team to surrender chances? If the answer is yes, then you're like, okay, are we capable of doing that? Well, we saw them do it with the same lineup against a couple of other opponents, the 2 wins that they had. And then there have been other games where they've actually done that and the other goalie has stoned them. So when I look at, like, where is this team at, I like the way the team has played this year. If you remove the first couple of weeks of the season, the team has played well. I just said, I feel the one bad game that they've had was this home Florida game. Mm-hmm. But that was the outlier. In all of the other games, they are battling. And it's not just that they are battling and playing hard. They are defending. They are keeping the puck out of their own net. Now, last night, it was a combination of limiting shots and shot attempts, but also Vasilevsky bailing them out with a couple of saves on some big mistakes they made. But that counts. Like, the goalie wears the uniform, right?
Sure.
It's not like Vasilevsky was asked to make 38 saves last night. He had to make, 20 saves. He made 18 of them. So the way I process this is, I'm not sure the Lightning are in a position where they have to make a move. They are going to have injured guys coming back unless there's something we don't know about these injured players, and, it may be longer term, and, you're having to address somebody who is not going to be coming back, like a Barkov situation, let's say. Panthers are like, we're not getting Barkov back. So while we like our team, we have to address this gaping hole somehow if we can at the deadline. We're going to have the money available to do it because we're not going to be using Barkov, okay? Assuming the Lightning are not in that situation, there's no reason to believe that they are. Like, my question to the fans is, like, what do you put more stock into? Nobody was saying the Lightning need to, like, go out and make all these moves when they'd won 7 in a row. Everyone's like, oh, the defensive depth, and, like, these players are coming out, and, they're terrific. They're performing so well. The Lightning are D'ing up, and they're scoring, and, they're making plays, and they're not letting games slip through their fingers. So which is the real team? That's the question for Julian. Or is it somewhere in between? And maybe it's somewhere in between, but I don't think you fluke your way into 15-3 and the 2-6. So this is the way I would say it, Greg. The 15-3 feels less like a mirage than the 2-6-1.
Yeah.
The 2-6-1 to me, it's not that it's a mirage, but with a couple of like slight differences in all of these games, that record would look much, much different. Even just getting the games to overtime. 2-2-6. Then we'd say the Lightning need to find a way to win a game in overtime. But, like, that's how close these games are, except for the Florida game. And Coop wasn't happy with after the first period against Toronto. You want to throw that game in there? Fine, but that still was a little bit of a goalie steal for Hildeby in the first period. And then the Lightning fell behind. They were chasing. They couldn't get the game tied. Anyway, if we get a lot of more, like, the Lightning, what do you think about acquiring this guy? What do you think about acquiring that guy? Like, I still think it's a little early, and Julian is probably assessing his team. And when we heard from Julian about the McDonough extension, part of it was McDonough was injured. So, like, he was out. So it was like, we're going to negotiate. But also Julian is like, I got some information about where our team is at. He felt comfortable re-upping McDonough based on what he had been seeing. Now, that happened before this December dip. We'll see. I mean, we still got a long, long way to go. We got more than half the season left, and the Lightning are not, like, at the bottom looking up like some teams in the West are. But they need to start winning.
That part is true.
They need to start getting points.
Yeah. They need to get back to bunching, as we've often said. Tonight, enjoy some Refrum. Smooth, versatile, now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name, Go Bolts, and make sure you enjoy responsibly. Let's go to Andrew. The Lightning's record this month isn't very good, but outside of the Florida game, I can't look at any individual game and think they've played poorly. Just seems they're lacking finish, and a few mistakes they do make end up in their net.
That's kind of what I was just saying, yeah. So thank you, Andrew. You and I are...
He said that at 12:04, by the way. So he did.
So
he
I
did
stole
have that.
it. I stole it from you, Andrew.
Well, you didn't steal it, but, great minds think alike.
I hadn't seen his,
no, you didn't see
his
it.
quote.
Aaron says, tired of post-game comments about outplaying opponents. You don't make the playoffs by feeling like you did enough to win. You have to find a way to win. And I think that's fair to what we just said as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, two things can be right. That you feel like the Lightning are not playing horribly right now, but they probably they need to start winning some games too.
I will say this. Was that Aaron?
Yes.
After a loss, I would rather hear the coach say, we outplayed the opponent than we got outplayed. Because, I mean, the Lightning could be 2-6-1 and have been outplayed like they were at the start of the year. Now they have to keep bringing the same level of effort and solid play, I will say. What we heard from the players last night, McDonough was like, we need to bring urgency for, I mean, he kind of said the full 60, but I mean, it's about not letting their foot off the gas at home. And Coop said, we're executing better on the road than we are at home. So, look, I get it. The fans are tired of hearing the same stuff. But the stuff that you're hearing is actually, first of all, it's accurate. Coop is not one to, blow smoke, right? He's fairly honest about his team. And if you're hearing that, that means that, if you keep playing that way, the tide is going to turn. We're still looking at, a period of time within a 10-game segment. This is still a small sample size of this particular malaise where they are snake-bitten offensively and doing a lot of good things and getting 0 points.
Right.
But not doing everything well. There are the isolated mistakes that are coming back to hurt them and proving to be very costly.
Ben says, what sorcery do goalies use against us to channel their inner Hasek?
Well, the New Jersey Devils would like a word. Right? Markstrom and Allen did not have a great game, especially Markstrom. But, yeah, Lightning are seeing some goalies that are pulling saves out of their back pocket. There was one that Forsberg made where he looked behind him.
Yeah.
Do I have it? Oh, I guess I do.
Jim says, on today's 32 Thoughts, Elliot focuses on just Hagel 3 times when I believe the discourse should be elevated to the general play style, in the parentheses, elbows to opposing players of the Panthers. Are we losing the plot?
Well, I didn't see Elliot's comments. But if Elliot is pointing out 3 headshots to Hagel, then this is not the Panthers are without blame here. That means that the national sentiment is, what is going on here, NHL?
For sure.
How are you allowing this to happen to this one player because the other team is unhappy about a hit that happened last year?
Yeah.
And if the argument on the Panther side is...
It's a conspiracy, partner.
Well, it's not that. But if the argument on the Panther side is there's never going to be... Hagel is going to have to continue to answer for this hit on Barkov. Our captain, our leader, don't even look at him cross-eyed. You did way more than that. You blasted him, and he had to leave the rest of that game. If that's their sentiment, that... as I often say, pay the toll. The toll will never be paid for Brandon Hagel.
Never be. It's going to continue.
Then by that logic, Sam Bennett, who boarded Blake Coleman back in 2021, should get a headshot every time the Lightning play him. And Carter Verhaeghe, who boarded Gergensons in the preseason and has boarded Chernak before, he should get an elbow to the head every single time they play. And every misdeed done by a Panther ever to the Lightning, Mikkola, slamming Gergensons into the dasher. Gensel
hitting him in the back of the head. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, that one didn't cause an injury, but Gergensons taking 2 of these. Right. We can go through the list and be like, you do a misdeed, you are always going to have to pay for this. You are always going to be punished and given a cheap shot. Is that where our game needs to be?
But let me ask you,
I think that's kind of where Elliott is coming from. Right. And if that is the logic, and I'm not saying that that's the logic from the Panthers, but I think some of the Panther fans feel like their response is always, well, he started it. Hagel started it. Hagel started it. Hagel shouldn't have hit the captain. Hagel hit our captain. Yeah. You know who else has been hit in the NHL? Every single player. Every single player who's ever suited up has been hit. And many of them have been hit worse than Barkov on that play. So is that where we're going to be with this game? In Hagel's mind, what he said after the season, I'm repeating myself, but I think it bears mentioning, said they didn't like the hit. They could have asked me to fight. I would have fought. I might have lost. I might have gotten my rear end kicked, but I would have fought. That's how it's typically handled. If you are going to target somebody's head repeatedly for a hit you felt was out of line and wrong, then you should expect the same in return. And I don't think the Panthers want that. I don't think they want Carter Verhaeghe to take a headshot every single time the Panthers play the Lightning. I don't think they want Mikkola to take a headshot every time the Panthers play the Lightning. I don't think they want Sam Bennett to take a headshot every time the Panthers play the Lightning. These guys have all done just as bad, if not worse, than what Hagel did. So,
but based off of the actions of the Panthers.
But that's why we're seeing this. Like I mentioned,
Understood.
Ray Ferraro said it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, again, I'm interpreting what the fan said, but if Elliott is pointing out like 3 headshots in a row against Hagel, what is going on here? Like that's a siren call from the people who cover the league writ large, who are like, this is now a problem. League, what are you going to do about it? Because clearly the Panthers are not going to stop.
Yeah, and I don't want to perseverate on this too much because you and I have talked about this a lot.
We have talked about this a lot.
The reality is, what else could be the explanation if the Panthers continue to do it? They obviously feel like it has not been settled. That would be the logical explanation.
Yeah.
Or else they just really don't like Hagel, but that goes together with the hit on Barkov.
Right.
You don't like the guy because he hit your captain. Fine.
Yeah, they never targeted Hagel before that play.
So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, fighting in the game is what it is. Do you just want to settle? Are they offended that the Lightning have kind of addressed some of this with Douglas and Sabrin on the team going after Ekblad, and they just feel like, all right, well, you're going to keep doing that. We're going to come back at you again.
Yeah.
That seems a little ridiculous.
I mean, if the Panthers feel that Scott Sabrin is only in the lineup to play the Panthers, they haven't been paying attention. He's played against other teams.
Yeah. And I think this is fair. Aaron also says the crazy thing is that Hagel hit on Barkov was tough, but not the most dirty hit ever by a long stretch. And I think that's fair. But I get it.
I mean, Eric said this to me the other day as we were talking about it. The way he termed it was the Hagel play was a hockey play gone wrong. If Barkov has the puck in his stick, that is not a penalty at all. I firmly believe that. Yeah. And I think Hagel does too. The problem was that he anticipated that Barkov was going to get the puck and hit him early. So it was a penalty. He deserved the major. He deserved the game misconduct. You can make an argument he deserved the 1-game suspension. The Lightning weren't thrilled about that 1-game suspension, which tells you that in their minds, like this may not have even risen to the level of a suspendable offense in the playoffs, where the standard is higher. But it was not like Hagel targeted Barkov. He didn't. Had he targeted Barkov, It would have been a hit to the head. Maybe when he had the puck. He didn't. He hit him early.
Yeah.
And it was a penalty. Nobody is arguing that it wasn't a penalty. But if Barkov had the puck there, he is eligible to be hit. He wears a uniform.
Don't know how we want to go with that name, but I'm just going to say @is. I don't know how much stock analytics get put into your analysis, but most models have Tampa as the only team close to Colorado. It's a little baffling how much they've lost, but this should turn around.
So part of this is the analytics are right, and part of this is the analytics are not exactly right. Okay. How's that for a complicated response? And this is just my own belief about it. So where the analytics are right, it's kind of what I was talking about. If you have 32 shots on net and 31 of them are saved, just the law of statistics tell us most goalies stop about 9 out of every 10. So the top goalies stop a little bit more than 9 out of every 10, but they're not stopping 19 out of every 20. That would be a .950 save percentage. Goalies are not stopping a lot more than 9 out of 10. So if you take 30-plus shots, the average tells you that you should be scoring in the neighborhood of 3 goals. Now, sometimes you don't, right? I mean, this is one game where you're looking at it. The Lightning in a lot of these losses have had enough shot attempts and shots on net to score more than what they've scored. So that is what the analytics are telling us. They're also looking at the shot attempts. If you have 77 shot attempts, statistics tell you that you're probably in position to score more than 1 goal. And you're not. The goalie's making saves, you hit the crossbar, shot gets blocked. what was that play that Bjorkstrand had a shot and I can't even remember the game, but it was somebody stuck his stick out and made a miraculous block on it. Was that the Toronto game maybe?
Might have been.
I can't remember which game it was. But, there's some of that, okay? So that's where the analytics are like, the Lightning are doing a lot of good things and probably should be rewarded more than they have been rewarded. But where the analytics don't really answer that question, even if you're looking at your favorite graph, Greg, the heat map, like
Come
where the
on,
shots
why'd you have
from,
to bring up the heat map?
Well, because that's part of it.
I
The
know.
heat map doesn't always tell you everything. Like
Sure.
Braden Point had several shot attempts in a very dangerous area last night, but how many of them were actually dangerous? How many of them like flubbed off his stick or like a guy was on him or the Kings got a stick in the way, it nicked off the stick and like fluttered and Forsberg was just able to glove it. So not all shots are created equal based on location. So that is where Coop is talking about execution, getting to hard areas.
Yeah.
So when you have 5 shots, are those 5 shots coming over a 10-minute span or are those 5 shots coming like boom, 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 boom? Like if they're one right after the other, I think those are probably more dangerous than 5 shots spread. Let's not say 10 minutes. Let's say 5 shots over a 2-minute span where it's a shot, save, face off, shot, save, the other team gets it, exits the zone, as opposed to shot, save, rebound, shot, save, retrieval, set it up, another shot, save, rebound, save. Like those 5 shots are going to be more problematic for the other team. So based on how the Lightning have played this year, I'm not surprised that the analytics are like they are the closest team to Colorado. Now, Colorado has dominated and they've been rewarded, right? Like they are leaning on other teams. They are outplaying other teams. They are out shooting other teams. They are outchancing other teams, and they are winning a lot. The Lightning during December have at least, I will say this, at least in a lot of these games, they played even with the other team. If you play even with the other team, in most games, you should be winning some, you should be losing some, and you should be getting to overtime in some. Instead, the Lightning are losing most of them in regulation. That's what's weird about it. But I don't think the analytics ever tell you the whole story. That's why it has to be taken with your favorite thing, the eye test. Like you have to watch and see.
I think hockey's such a quick sport. You do have to take those with a grain of salt, the analytics in hockey. There are a few that make some sense. I think I'd have to look at all of them. But to me, it is the eye test more than anything. That usually, what do they say about your gut? Your gut usually leads you the way, with how you feel in a certain situation. I think your eyes, unless you have a clouded, predetermined opinion on something, if you're pretty open to looking at things, usually your eyes are a pretty good indication of what's happening right now.
And what you said when they lost the 4 in a row overall, not just at home, I remember on the show, Greg, you were saying it's hard to believe the Lightning haven't gotten any points out of these games.
Yeah. That felt like an outlier.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some extremes here. I don't know, where the law of averages would say things are going to start to come back to the norm a little bit here, and you're going to start to see whatever these metrics people are looking at. I don't know what it is, but the Lightning have done well with the injuries, but they still need to munch some points here because they're not going to stop playing.
Yeah,
with these situations happening.
Timothy says, look back. I know we're going to get to this question, but let's just look back at the 15-3. Of the 15 wins during that time frame, how many of those 15 wins were the opposite? Where the Lightning kind of were fortunate to make a play to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I can think of one, the Edmonton game. Nick Paul scored late in the third. They were down in that game.
Sure.
And they made a play, and then they got the save from Vasilevsky in overtime. I'm not saying they didn't earn it, right? Yeah. I mean, they did outplay the Oilers after the Oilers went up. But that was a game kind of like these last few games that we're seeing where they were down by a goal, kind of snake-bitten. Remember how well the Oilers were defending, a rarity to this point this year, although they had a good defensive game, I guess, last night in Boston. And Nick Paul, in his debut, comes back and makes a play. So the Lightning get the game tied, and then they get the save from Vasilevsky in overtime, and Gensel scores. that was a game where it could have been a regulation loss. They turned it into an overtime win. You want to say that the game they had in Washington, I thought they were outplayed in that game, but they did score 4 goals in the first period, so they were able to play with the lead. I'm not sure that was one that they turned a loss into a win. But look how many other games since we've turned the calendar to December that, I mean, honestly, the Lightning have done enough in a lot of these regulation losses to get points. And my point is that it's not like it's all evening out, because I think they deserve to win most of those 15 games that they won during that 18-game stretch.
By the way, Nick Paul, I'd like to see him get going. I think that can help. And look, I know he's working himself back. I think there's more to give. He was pretty good in the faceoff circle, wasn't he, last night?
He had a great night in the circle.
So
and he won some late draws from Kopitar, which was key to help the Lightning have possession when they had the 6-on-4.
So there you go. Maybe there's some
we spent a lot of time
mojo
on faceoffs yesterday.
Right. Timothy on Facebook says, could Point be on the trade block, underperformance, and makes I'm going to say that's a lot of money, not a little money. Just I'm curious on your thoughts. Great show, guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We appreciate that, Tim.
N-O. No. Capital N, capital O.
Yeah, that's
they are not trading Braden Point. And actually, Braden Point's been playing better since he came back from his injury. Yeah. He was buzzing last night.
It does feel weird, though. You want to get into the metrics. I'd be curious what the metrics say about Braden Point. You know, like he's getting chances, or his goal ratio future rate is,
So here's one that I will disagree flat out with analytics, because Ed Encina did an article on Point talking to him about, having missed 7 games and taking a step back. And he's played better since he came back from his injury. But the point kind of was he was in the slump prior to the injury, and yet he was generating all of these high danger chances. I'm like, I actually did not think Braden Point was generating high danger chances based on the eye test. I'm not going to these sites to see what the number is, but Ed might have. So if that's the case, if some analytics site looked at the first however many games that Braden Point played before he got hurt, my dog, as you can tell, is very excited to hear me make this point.
Yes.
But if you looked at those first whatever it was, so he came back in game 29 maybe, so he played the first 22 before he got hurt. You look at those 22 games that he played, you're going to tell me that he generated a ton of scoring chances? I will tell you no. I do not believe that he did. I mean, he generated some, but we've seen him be far more dangerous than he was in the early part of the year. I think that he was not scoring, and he was also quiet. Part of that was the power play, because the power play was quiet. Now, I do think he is getting looks. Now, I do think he is looking dynamic. Now, he is getting points. He made a great play in the neutral zone on Armia to basically set up the goal for Bjorkstrand. It's not going to go down as a point that he picked up, but if he doesn't make that play, there's no goal. So, Timothy, I'm sorry. I disagree. I mean, even if he had struggled all year, the Lightning are not trading Braden Point. He's one of their best players, and he's one of the best players in the NHL. This year's slump notwithstanding. Same thing we said about Marner. Leafs didn't trade Marner, but they chose to move on from him, and maybe the feeling was mutual. You pull a guy with that amount of talent off your team, it is very, very difficult to replace that. Near impossible.
And that's fair. All the way around. Mm-hmm. All right, so tomorrow is going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Carolina, I mean, is it the second best record in the league overall? Behind
they
Colorado?
Play at Florida tonight. This is going to be kind of like the Lightning, not quite at the level of Lightning Panthers, because we had the preseason stuff. But Carolina, if there's a team that dislikes the Panthers in the same vicinity as the Lightning, it's Carolina. Carolina. They are going to be so amped up to play this game tonight against the Panthers, because I think it's their first meeting. Maybe wrong about that, but I believe it is their first meeting of the year. And fresh in Carolina's mind is the fact that Panthers knocked them out of the playoffs again.
Yeah.
Twice in the last 3 years. They are going to be up for this game. Conference finals, they lost. So if you're the Lightning, you hope that Carolina throws everything in the kitchen sink at the Panthers and is feeling a little drained.
Sure.
Coming into the game against the Lightning on Saturday. We'll see, though. How about Brandon Bussey? Remember he played in that Orlando game for the Panthers?
Yeah.
What is he, 10-0-1 this year?
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a great story.
Is it the Patrick?
Because
Louis?
Anderson and Kochetkov are often getting hurt, I feel like.
Yeah.
Kochetkov may be hurt right now.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we'll be at it tomorrow. And then what are we doing next week to give our audience?
So, yes,
22?
Monday is Lightning Blues, so we can recap the Saturday game and preview Lightning Blues on Monday. And then we have a show that we're pre-taping on the morning of the 23rd.
And then we'll take some time off.
And then we will say
Merry Christmas.
Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. Yes. All of that. And we are coming back at some point after Christmas. Did Steve talk to you about our schedule?
I want to say we're coming back on the 29th. My guess
which is
we're
a departure
off.
day. That's a departure day for the Lightning out to California. So,
I mean, Christmas
we'll
is on the
see.
25th, which is a Thursday.
The Lightning play the Panthers on the 27th, and then the Canadians on the 28th, and then they leave.
But I don't
want
to speak for everybody.
29th. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Stay tuned. We will have a show on Monday. We'll have a show on Tuesday, and then we will take a little bit of a break.
Yes. All right. Yep. That's good. Great job, partner.
Yeah,
Dude,
you too.
I'll talk to you
Good show.
tomorrow. Yeah, and then we'll get it going again on Monday. Thanks to Steve Ersnick and to all of you for listening. We appreciate you guys so much. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.